Hey guys, how's it going? Today I'm going to show you how to color correct your video shot with the Insta360 One X, which is the new 360 camera on the block. Shoots 5.7K 360 video, very good, been testing it the past few weeks and it shoots really good video. But in order to get the best quality out of your video, like most cameras, really you need to color correct it, or you can at least adjust the color and the brightness to get kind of the best look. Now, part of the reason I'm doing this is because one of the last videos I did when I compared this camera with the GoPro Fusion, did like a side-by-side comparison, some people kind of called me out and said that I hadn't color corrected the video, so you know it could be better and it wasn't a fair comparison, blah blah blah. But basically guys, when I compare video with these cameras, I always just do it straight out of the camera, or I do very minor adjustments. Actually with this one I did more adjustment than I usually do, because Insta360 told me that I should use this LUT file, which I did, and that's the file I used, and that's the video that came out. So when I compare videos, I don't color correct them because not everybody can do that. Not everybody can afford a copy of Premiere Pro, especially after these cameras, you know, they're quite expensive anyway. When I compare these videos, it's straight out of the camera. What you see is what you get. But I'm going to show you now how to color correct, or at least how I color correct the video coming out of this camera. So yeah, let's get to it. Let's go to Premiere and I'll show you exactly what I do. Okay, so we're in Premiere Pro now, and yeah, so I'm just going to grab this video here. Now this is shot in log mode, which is basically the kind of flat color profile, which allows you to properly adjust your footage, or at least have the maximum control of the color and the brightness and the contrast. So if you want the absolute best quality and you want to color correct your video, then you should shoot in log mode. And as you can see, it is rather bland and rather dull, but that's how it's supposed to look. If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to color correct your video and you just want it straight out of the camera, then you can just shoot in a normal mode and it will be more saturated and have more color. Now Insta360 have provided me with a LUT file, which I will apply now, and this is what I did when I did my last comparison, and I will now prove to you that I did color correct it somewhat, because this is what I used. So yeah, where is it? Here we go. So this is what it looks like without the LUT file applied, LUT file, whatever you want to call it, and the LUT file basically automatically adjusts everything to the specifications that the file suggests. So let's apply it. And there we go, see it's changed, and yeah, now it's got some color, and this is what I used when I was comparing it with the GoPro Fusion. So if you're telling me that I left it, I didn't, because this is what I used. Obviously now you can adjust it. The reason I didn't do that before is because I didn't do the same thing with the GoPro Fusion, and I thought it was a fair comparison to just have them both straight out the camera. But anyway, let's see what you can do. Let's go over to the color correction tab, which is here. And what I found with the One X is that you need to have first a lot of saturation added, because it is a little bit bland even with this LUT file applied. Now this scene is obviously very colorful. It's supposed to be very colorful. There's leaves on the ground. It's autumn here, fall, and it's supposed to be very orange and very bright. So I found that adding quite a bit of saturation is important. I mean, if we go all the way to the top, that's a bit much, but if we come down, I'm going to stick it on like 135 and see how that goes. Now let's go back up here now, because I'd like to go through these individually, see what they look like. Exposure is actually really good on the One X. I don't think you really need to adjust exposure unless you are in a very dark environment, but that is pretty accurate to what it was like at the time. So now contrast is another thing that I think the One X really needs to, you need to bump that up a little bit, because the contrast, I mean, it just seems a little bit bland, especially when I compare it with other cameras. The dark areas don't really stick out that much, and the shadows are a bit they're not dark enough for my liking, so I like to stick the contrast up a little bit. I mean, if we go all the way to the top and all the way down, you'll see what I mean. It doesn't need to be that much, but I'll add roughly 25 or 30. There we go. The highlights are actually also very good in this camera. The lenses have obviously been improved since the last version, because last time the highlights were often blown out or a bit blurry, but now the highlights seem to do quite well. I mean, maybe you want to bump it up a little bit just because it gives it a little bit more vibrance, I think, or especially in this like sunny, like there's contrast between the shadows and where the sun is shining through the trees, so bumping up the highlights will improve that a little bit. But yeah, I guess we can leave it roughly where it is. The same thing with shadows. I mean, it captures light and dark pretty well, I think. I mean, I will just pump it down a little bit just to get that contrast between the light and the dark areas. I think it will make this particular scene look better, but you don't need to adjust those that much, in my opinion. And then white and blacks are basically the same thing, but it just applies to the whole I think I may play with the blacks a little bit, just make the blacks a little bit darker, because like I say, it doesn't pick up the shadows as much as other cameras do. Kind of leaves those a bit too bright for my liking, so I will adjust the shadows. So as you can see here, I've adjusted, it's not been major adjustments. The biggest thing I change is the contrast and the saturation, which I think is the main drawbacks of this camera. It doesn't pick up colors quite as well, or at least they're a little bit bland, and also the contrast isn't that great, so the difference between light and dark, especially if you're in a shadowy area like this. So let's see what that looks like. So you can see there is a huge difference there, and it looks so much better. Now you can go onto the creative tab, which allows you to have a little bit more kind of intricate control of the colors. So the first thing I do is go to vibrance, and I bump that up a little bit as well, which adds even more color. But you don't need to, if you've already added lots of saturation, you don't want to make it too much. That is too much, obviously. So we're gonna put it down. I mean, I probably had like just 20 or so. Yeah, that looks pretty colorful. That's what I want it to look like, because it's a very colorful scene. And you can leave the saturation. And yeah, I mean, now it will depend entirely on what your image is on, because here the colors, I will change the colors completely differently compared to what you would, depending on where you're filming. So here is a video I shot not in log mode, just in normal mode. So as you can see, automatically it is a lot brighter. It's a lot more colorful and a lot less bland than the previous log mode without color correction. So obviously I can color correct this, which if I just do that quickly now, I can adjust stuff like, so you know, I can still color correct this, but it's just going to be more difficult to get what I want, because there's already so much color and contrast, and the light's already been decided basically by the camera, so it's harder to actually get what you want. So it's better to do it with log mode if you want full control. Yeah, so there we go. You can color correct this as well, and I do think that already looks a little bit better maybe. Like, obviously I'm not an expert at color correcting, but you know, you can still do that. But if you are going to color correct and use Premiere, then you're going to shoot in log mode. And if you're not going to do that, you know, you're going to shoot in normal mode. So yeah, guys, I think that's it. That's just a quick kind of tutorial of how I color correct my 360 video shot with the Insta360 One X, specifically in log mode, which is what you would use when you want to have full control of the color and contrast and light in your video. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of videos with this, a lot of comparisons. I've got maybe like 2 more to go. I'm going to compare it with some the GoPro Hero 7 and with all the other 5K cameras that I have. So all of the 5K cameras in one kind of comparison. And then that is it, because I'm bored of doing comparisons. To be honest, it's not my favorite thing to do. I mean, it's interesting to see what the differences between the cameras are, and obviously it's very useful for you guys to decide which one you want to get. But for me personally, it's not my favorite thing to do, because people get annoyed when you choose the wrong one, or if you don't compare it exactly how they would want to. So once I've done that, then that's it for a while, and I'm going to get back to doing some cool virtual tours of cities around the world, because I went around Europe and to New York this year, and I want to carry on kind of creating my virtual tours of those, because that's fun. I like doing that. So if you want to stick around and see those, subscribe. And yeah, if you want to buy this camera, then check the link below. You can get a free selfie stick with it if you click that link, and yeah, etc, etc. And there's more information in my website, which I'll also link below, like a review of this camera, which basically says everything there is to know about it. So you can also check that out if you're interested. Yeah, but apart from that, I guess I will see you around. See you next time, and let me know if you have any questions or comment. Okay, bye.